President Vladimir Putin of Russia arrived in New Delhi Thursday for the annual India-Russia summit, which marks Russia's long-standing partnership with India. President Putin and Prime Minister Modi are expected to discuss a wide range of issues from defense to energy to talent mobility. As many as 10 agreements between the two governments are expected to be announced during the visit. Putin is traveling with 75 Russian CEOs, the largest delegation that he's carried to India in the last 20 years. But looming over the bilateral discussions between Putin and Modi will be a third figure, a man who's been testing the limits of this partnership, US President Donald Trump. The timing is particularly sensitive for India, which has been searching for ways to resolve its tariff situation with Trump, particularly the oil tariffs. Trump has accused India of financing Russia's war on Ukraine by buying Russian oil. He has singled India out and imposed 25% oil tariffs on India, which is the only country to face these tariffs, even though China imports much more Russian oil than India does. Last month, India's biggest oil companies, both public and private, said that they would stop buying Russian crude after US sanctions on Russian oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil, which are the two biggest Russian energy companies. The bilateral summit signals to the world that both India and Russia are committed to this relationship that dates back to the Soviet Union. This is the 23rd version of the annual summit, which first began in the year 2000 when Vladimir Putin first became president. For both Putin and Modi, this is an opportunity to show to the world, and in particular to Donald Trump, that they have friends and partners beyond America.
Мы нацелены вывести сотрудничество с Китайской Народной Республикой и с Республикой Индия на качественно новый уровень с усилением его технологической составляющей. На это нацелено множество совместных проектов в энергетике, в промышленности, космосе, сельском хозяйстве и так далее. По вопросам экономической повестки у нас выстроен содержательный диалог с председателем Китайской Народной Республики господином Си Цзиньпинем. Также подробно будем обсуждать эти темы в ходе предстоящего визита в Индию с премьер-министром господином Нарендрой Моди, включая увеличение импорта индийских товаров на наш рынок.
But Prime Minister Modi, who shares a warm personal bond with Vladimir Putin, will have to walk a tightrope between managing India's relationship with Russia, which is its biggest arms supplier, while at the same time he has to cater to the United States, which is India's biggest trading partner. And that is a challenging line to walk, even in the best of times. Putin arrived in Delhi Thursday evening for the summit. The following day, he and Prime Minister Modi discussed ways to strengthen trade and economic ties. India-Russia trade ties have been minimal, with India exporting less than $5 billion to Russia. Much of the trade of $68 billion has been dominated by India's import of Russian oil. India would like to diversify its trade with Russia, including increasing India's import of Russian fertilizer and the construction of small nuclear reactors in India. A new agreement on labor mobility is also expected, which would make it easier for Russian companies to hire workers from India. Russia has been facing an acute labor shortage, which has been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, and also there's been a decline in the number of migrants coming to Russia from Central Asia. Successive Indian governments have chosen to follow a path of strategic autonomy, where alliances and partnerships are dictated by India's interests, but now India has to strike a balance between two great powers, Russia on the one hand and America on the other. India has a strong bond with Russia and depends on Russia for its military weapons. It has faced the wrath of Western countries, both America and Europe, for its neutral stand in the war in Ukraine. India has abstained from all UN votes on the Ukraine war. But the new complication is India's strained ties with America. Both countries have had a strategic partnership over the last 25 years, but now Trump is really testing its limits. The bipartisan consensus was partly because Washington viewed India as a counterweight to China. But Trump's hefty tariffs have completely upended that. Indian oil companies began buying a lot of discounted oil from Russia after the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. More than a third of India's oil imports have been from Russia in the last 3 years. And this became a major sticking point in India's trade negotiations with Donald Trump. Trump slammed an extra 25% tariff on India, doubling the tariffs initially imposed on all Indian exports. But India won't be able to turn off the Russian tap overnight, and that is something that even Trump has acknowledged.
Well, I understand India no longer is going to be buying oil from Russia. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's a good step. We'll see what happens, okay?
But what Russia loses out on oil, it might gain on the defense front. India spends tens of billions of dollars on military equipment to protect its borders with China and Pakistan. Russia is India's biggest supplier of weapons. Most of its air defense systems, its fighter jets, its missiles and guns used by the armed forces are of Russian origin. According to the Stockholm International Peace and Research Institute, even today, India depends on Russian imports for more than 60% of its weapons. During Putin's visit, India could potentially announce the purchase of more S-400 air defense batteries. The S-400, as well as the long-range BrahMos missile, which was an India-Russia collaboration, played a significant role in Operation Sindoor with Pakistan back in May. Although India has been diversifying its sources of weapons, it's buying more now from Israel, from France, and even from the United States. Even today, over 60% of India's armed inventory is of Russian origin. India's dependence on Russia for maintenance, spare parts, and support for its defense equipment is going to continue, and in fact, it's only going to be further accentuated in Putin's visit.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.